Hi, I'm Dr. Water. I'm a doctor, the unglamorous kind who spends his days keeping working adults healthy. Today, though, I'd like to talk about manga instead of blood pressure. It started innocently. I reopened Volume 1 of Demon Slayer for the first time in years, and from the first chapter to the last, one question kept jamming up in my head. Okay, but what would actually happen to a human body here? Getting stronger by breathing, turning into a demon through blood, recovering by sleeping instead of eating, regrowing severed limbs, fighting all night on a freezing mountain. Every bit of it, the body. And if it's about the body, a doctor really has no excuse not to check the math. So here's today's plan. I read Volume 1 from the top and fact-check 7 scenes against real medicine. One scene, one verdict. About half land on, actually kind of true. About half on, yeah, that's fantasy. And exactly one on, please do not try this in real life. I'm not here to dunk on the manga. I'm here to ask, if a human body did this, what would really happen? And back every medical claim with a paper, DOI, so I can't quietly cheat. I don't reproduce dialogue. I describe each scene in my own words, and where I quote a panel, it's a single official panel with a citation, used only because the scene itself is what I'm examining. Tanjiro's nose. Can a human sense of smell really be that good? Volume 1 opens on a snowy mountain, Tanjiro heading home from selling charcoal. He sniffs the air and knows something is wrong at the house before he can see a thing. Not just cold and snow. He smells trouble from a distance. The whole boy who reads the world with his nose starts right here. I'll be honest. I'm more of an ears guy than a nose guy. I spend all day listening to people. But this panel makes me stop. Is the human nose actually that trustworthy? For a long time, textbooks lowballed us at about 10,000 smells. Then a mixture discrimination study suggested humans can distinguish well over 1 trillion olfactory stimuli. So the raw hardware is there. The real question is whether you can smell illness. Here's where dogs get interesting. Trained dogs may detect cancer from volatile organic compounds, VOCs, in breath, urine, and tissue. Whether a human nose is Tanjiro grade is another matter, but the premise that your health leaks out of you as smell, VOCs, is not nonsense at all. A kid who smells danger before he sees it is annoyingly hard to fully debunk. My own nose tops out at judging coffee. Verdict, partly true. Human olfactory resolution is higher than you'd think, and disease really does show up as odor. But smelling blood and danger this precisely, untrained, is dog and electronic nose territory. That part's the manga dialing it up. Takeaway. Your body leaks its status as smell. You're not Tanjiro, but your nose is a better diagnostic sensor than you give it credit for. Blood gets in, and Nezuko changes. Can blood rewrite your species or personality? Early on, Nezuko takes demon blood into a wound, and her condition flips almost instantly. Fangs, sharp claws, and a gentle temperament overwritten so completely she reacts to her own brother. Blood enters the body, and who she is seems to get rewritten. As a doctor, the scene I actually think about is the needle-stick injury consult. Someone else's blood enters a wound, and you become something else, medically. But something is transmitted through blood. That part is real. For blood-borne infection, per-exposure transmission risk after a percutaneous stick runs roughly 6 to 30% for HBV, 1.8% for HCV, 0.3% for HIV. Blood mostly carries pathogens. What about whole cells? In transfusion-associated graft-versus-host disease, TAGVHD, donor lymphocytes engraft in the recipient and attack their tissues, with mortality around 90 to 100%. That's the closest real thing to another being's cells move in, and it's a catastrophic disease, not a species change. Blood is not a medium for rewriting your whole genome. What travels is infection and immune reaction, not personality, not species. I'll say that plainly. Verdict. Blood transmitting information or cells. True. Rewriting your species or character. Fiction. The real neighbor is infection and TAGVHD, a disease, not a transformation. Takeaway. Blood carries pathogens and other people's cells, not your personality or your species. Nezuko recovers by sleeping, not eating. Can a human live like that? As a demon, Nezuko goes long stretches without eating like a person, sleeping deeply, and wakes up restored. No food, no water, and yet sleep seems to refill her tank. It's played against Tanjiro's very human bewilderment at a sister who won't eat or drink. The enviable part is recover by sleeping instead of eating. Humans do not get that deal. Glycogen stored in liver and muscle is only a few hundred grams and runs down in about 3 to 4 days of fasting. Textbook physiology. After that, fat-derived ketones become the brain's main fuel, and for a lean, average build, total fast survival tops out around 3 months, far less without water. A body that refills on sleep alone is, at minimum, not human. Nezuko is fully on the demon side of the ledger. But sleep equals repair is real. Growth hormone release is tightly locked to the deep sleep right after you fall asleep, slow-wave sleep, with most of the day's secretion front-loaded into the first half of the night, tied to tissue repair and anabolism. So sleep fixes the body, true. Survive on sleep without eating, fantasy. What you burn by staying up late is exactly this repair window. Verdict, fantasy, but the sleep repair part is true. No human refills on sleep alone. Deep sleep, growth hormone, and tissue repair, however, are very real. Takeaway, your body really does repair itself while you sleep. Living on sleep without food is a demon-only perk. Training under Urokodaki. How fast and strong can training really make you? Tanjiro apprentices under Sakanji Urokodaki and grinds through brutal drills, dodging traps down a mountain, swinging a blade endlessly. Winded at first, then sharper and sharper, until his body can take on a boulder. Volume 1's training arc. In occupational medicine terms, for the first few weeks, what gets stronger isn't the muscle, it's the wiring. Early gains in strength and reaction are explained less by muscle growth than by neural adaptation. More motor units recruited, higher firing rates, less antagonist co-contraction. In fact, in leg training, corticospinal excitability rises before muscle thickness or peak strength. Visible size generally kicks in after several weeks, and protein synthesis translates into hypertrophy only once the muscle damage settles. So Tanjiro getting sharp quickly makes sense as neural learning. Cutting a boulder, though, is years of accumulation in the real world, and the story does, in fact, spend those years on it. Quietly honest of them. Verdict, partly true. Training genuinely improves reaction and strength, and early gains are mostly neural. But cut a boulder needs a physiological ceiling and years, which the story actually spends. Takeaway, training upgrades the nerves first, the muscle grows later. Speed is neural, size is measured in months. Makomo's total concentration breathing. Does breathing more make you stronger? In Chapter 5, Mid-Training on MT Sajiri, a masked girl named Makomo teaches Tanjiro total concentration breathing. The idea that circulating the air you breathe through your blood raises your physical ability itself. Which raises the obvious question. So if you just breathe in more and more, do you keep getting stronger? This is the engine the whole series runs on. Breathe in air, send it through the blood, and boost the body. I start to nod, and then, hold on, the doctor in me cuts in. It's already full. Here's what years of squinting at hundreds of oxygen saturation readings taught me. At rest, a healthy person's blood oxygen saturation sits at roughly 97 to 100%, textbook fact. The oxygen delivery trucks are already loaded. So can I just top it up with a big deep breath? I get the urge, I thought so for a second too. But saturation cannot exceed 100%. Yelling "let more people in" at a sold-out theater. Physically, no. And here's the mean part. Overbreathing, hyperventilation, actually backfires. It drops blood CO2, tips you alkaline, and via the Bohr effect hemoglobin clings to its oxygen. So the harder you helpfully gulp air, the less reaches the tissues. The more air equals more power, equation caps out embarrassingly fast. And yet, having just demolished the whole thing, who was nodding along a second ago? Using breath to steady your nervous system and focus is a completely separate story. Volume is one conversation, quality is another. Let's not confuse them. Verdict, fantasy, with a grain of truth. Breathe more, get infinitely stronger, fails because resting oxygen is basically maxed out. But breathing to regulate the autonomic nervous system and focus? That I won't dismiss. Takeaway, at rest your hemoglobin is already sold out. Breathe more, get stronger, hits the delivery ceiling. Final selection, Hand Demon's Regeneration. How far can a human body actually regrow? Later in Volume 1, the final selection. On MT Fujikase-sane, Tanjiro faces a large, many-armed demon, the Hand Demon. Cut the torso, and it's not fatal. The body snaps back. The only reliable kill is severing the neck with a Nichiren blade. Breaks and returns to normal. Is drawn as the defining line between demon and human. Cut it and it heals. Grow extra arms. Lovely, but human regeneration is nowhere near that generous. Baseline physiology. Deep wounds don't come back as new. They fill in with fibrosis, scar, textbook fact. The famous exception is the liver, where remaining cells proliferate after partial resection to restore mass. But that's not true shape-restoring regeneration. It's closer to compensatory growth. Limbs and torsos are a different story. Mammals can't build the blastema, the regeneration command center amphibians make, so wounds default to scar. The one thing humans regrow that even looks the part is limited fingertip, distal tip, nail included, regeneration, driven by nail-derived cells and WNT/BMP signaling. So lose an arm, sprout a new one, is basically fantasy. The hand demon's breaks and returns is the exact opposite of the scar and settle reality of being human. I can't regenerate, so I just, see a doctor. Verdict, mostly fantasy. Human regeneration tops out at the liver's compensatory growth and a fingertip. Regrowing a severed arm or adding body parts doesn't happen. Takeaway, the only things a human truly regrows are the liver, compensatory growth, and fingertips. Arms settle for a scar. The demon's regeneration is fantasy. Fighting all night on snowy Mt. Fuji-Kaisen. Can sleep loss plus cold be beaten by willpower? A serious note now. This is the most important part today. The final selection is set on Mt. Fuji-Kaisen, where demons are penned in. Challengers must survive from dusk to dawn for several days, and Tanjiro fights in the falling snow. No sleep, no rest, body heat bleeding away. All-night tension and cold, where a single lapse ends you. A life-or-death endurance trial. Medically, this scene comes down to one line. I'm amazed he made it back alive. First, sleep loss. Performance after 17 hours awake can drop to the level of a 0.05% blood alcohol concentration. Longer deprivation has been reported to impair cognition and motor function to a 0.1%, legally drunk, equivalent. So Tanjiro's judgment and reaction time, fighting through the night, are, on paper, close to swinging a sword tipsy. Now add snow and cold. In hypothermia, as core temperature falls, impaired judgment, loss of fine motor control, and clouded consciousness progress in stages, and can become fatal. Shivering burns energy, fingers go numb, the brain begs for sleep. Sleep loss and cold weaken a human independently and synergistically. A night of adrenaline keeps you sharp, is a transient sympathetic response. The fatigue itself is not canceled, textbook fact. As fiction, it's thrilling. In real climbing or night shift work, it's a genuinely dangerous combination. I won't make a joke of this one. Verdict, dangerous. Guts don't stop sleep loss or hypothermia. Copy this in real life, and you risk your life to impaired judgment and cold. This is the safety warning zone. Takeaway, all-nighter plus cold is almost equal to taking on a hard climb, drunk and freezing. Sleepiness and cold aren't beaten by willpower. You manage them with physiology. Reading it through, here's what surprised me. Demon Slayer Volume 1 is a weirdly honest textbook on the body. The exaggerations are exaggerations, but there's real physiology underneath. Breathing, blood, training, regeneration, sleep loss. All of it is, also, a story about your body. One volume, read cover to cover through a doctor's eyes. If I boil it down to 3 takeaways. Your status leaks as smell/your body repairs and sleep. Tanjiro and Nezuko are right here. Your nose and your sleep are on your side, in real life. Blood won't change your personality/arms don't regrow/breathing more won't make you stronger. The demon in breath, superpowers, all crash into a physiological ceiling. And all-nighters plus cold, please don't power through them. This is the one I mean straight. Sleepiness and cold are handled with physiology, not grit. Manga is a doorway into how strange the human body is. And the real body is far more interesting than you'd guess. From Volume 2 on, I'll keep reading it through the body. See you at the next checkup. Thanks for watching. I'm Dr. Water. Subscribe for the next body check, and I'll see you at the next appointment.